Welcome back everyone, John Panio here with another video. Today we're going to be showcasing Encorp Grossszhammer Meursault. He is the latest 3-star unit and he is a interesting unit. Currently right now I would say he's strong, but I don't think he's anywhere close to like S tier or top tier. And let me explain why in a little bit. But first and foremost, let's cover the basics. We have him here at level 30, uptie 3. His max health is 198, his speed is 3 to 5, so he's almost slower than a defense of 42, pretty high. His resistance is he's immune to slash, or he's normal to slash, ineffective to pierce, and fatal to blunt. His first skill is dive. It is a 5 base with +1 with 2 coin. On hit, lower the user's stagger threshold by 60% of the damage dealt. This is in theory a strong skill, but in practice kind of a weak skill because number one, his 5 with potential of +1 for base is really weak. More often than not, the enemy's going to flip a 6 and go into an 8-10, or flip into a 6 go into a 10, and your drive just gets absolutely obliterated. Kind of not strong, but in theory if it hits it's pretty good, but even then you feel like this is kind of like a tremor burst, like tremor burst skill, but the numbers just aren't that strong here. You think it's kind of strong, and it is, but if the enemy has anything that's like a 5-6 with potential flip into like 3-4, this goes getting absolutely demolished. You are Cleansed of Sin is a base of 6+3. It on hit inflicts 3 nails as well as on hit inflict 3 bind. I'm not going to go too much into detail about how nail will work, but essentially the nails convert into counts of bleed at the start of the next turn. So if I inflict 3 nails, next turn, the enemy's going to get 3 counts of 1 bleed. And what will then happen is the next turn, that 3 count, or those 3 stacks of nail go down to 1 because it's go into half round down. So the next turn, the enemy will go into 4 counts of 2 damage tick bleed because nail applies 1 stack of bleed, only 1 bleed damage, but multiple counts. So it's really good for being able to build up counts of bleed, but it's not good with building damage with bleed. So you want to pair them up with units that can do bleed damage. His last skill is Annihilate Heretics. It's an 8 base with +3. It's a strong base skill, but it doesn't have quite a lot of potential. It can go up to with 2 coins, it can go all the way up to 14. And it's on hit, inflict 2 nail, and for the next turn, and it can heal 50% of the damage dealt. So it's got kind of the Gregor, drain tank build in it. His base passive is okay. It's called Obsessive Hammer. You need 4 Wrath. When below 50% HP, remove 1 negative status effect and gain 1 Fanatic, 1 attack power up, and 3 protection at the start of the combat. So it's really strong if your Meursault's at half HP. And that's kind of it, but it also requires 4 Wrath, which is quite a bit. It gives him like, a light little attack boost and some protection, so it's nice, but it's a little bit situational because number one, you gotta be below 50% HP, and number 2, you gotta need 4 Wrath. And maximum bonus is if you get attacked. But in reality, that's usually not gonna happen because you're gonna get the most use out of the attack bonuses, and the protection might or might not be used. His support though is actually pretty decent. If he's benched, he's actually got a decent support passive with the highest honor. It's 3 Wrath, but it applies 1 attack up and 1 protection to the ally with the lowest HP. And if the ally is from Encorp, also apply 1 Fanatic. So at minimum, you're gonna get an attack boost to the unit with the lowest HP, and at most you're gonna get some protection. So if it gets hit, they'll be able to take a little bit more punishment, which is nice. And this can be active, or it can be triggered, relatively easily. Just gonna target the unit with the lowest HP, and your units are always going to get some benefits out of it. And they actually added a really decent defense skill, so it's one of the first characters that has an actual defense skill where it's Foolishness. Combat start, gain 1 protection at the less than 50% HP, final power +2. This is decent in the sense that now that defense skills are updated and you can now use defense to clash with enemies in abnormality battles, now this might not be such a bad idea. You can use this to steal away a clash from an enemy that you're most likely going to lose, and since the base is 15, it's actually pretty high, so it's pretty good in that sense. But also you can potentially lose up to 5 from what it looks like if you land your coin flip, so it goes from 15 to 10, which I guess kind of makes sense. Overall, he is not too shabby, but I do want to quickly go over his E.G.O. His base E.G.O, Chains of Other, is a very strong debuff skill where it inflicts bind and attack power down to the enemy, but also inflicts the same amount of bind and attack power down to yourself, but you gain 2 protection next turn. It's a good debuff skill, so he's a really good support, but for this version of Meursault, it's not going to be as good because your Meursault kind of wants to do damage, so this base E.G.O doesn't synergize well, but it is still there. So, we are going to be using this version because I don't have them, but we're going to be showcasing it with Honglu for bleed. We have the Rodion also maxed out, and we're going to be using these other tanky units to be able to ideally support these characters. Let's get rid of people who aren't fatal to blunt, so I guess we'll just keep this team and we'll show what happens. We'll have all the units just defend except for those three. We're going to have those three, you know, Unga Bunga attack, and we'll compare how strong, you know, a level 15 Honglu is compared to, say, a level 30 Meursault, and say compared to a level 30 Rodion, because Honglu 2-star is still technically at level 15. Everyone else, max out. So we are going to have you defend, and we're going to see what happens. Base skill, base skill, base skill. So we are using the base skill. This is base skill, so everyone's using base skill. Rodion, Honglu, and also Meursault. As you can see, this is 4 to 10, 5 to 7, and 3 to 11. So let's see if the clashes are going to work. So Honglu gets to 10, wins his clash. Meursault went into a defense, didn't really do much damage, so defend. Let's see if we can get him to clash. We have dominating, but let's just see the favored clash. Right now we are 6 to 8, the enemy's 3 to 9. Let's see. Let's see if we can beat that clash. We are at 6-7-7 clash, 6-7. So as you can see right here, the enemy, if they roll their heads and they land the hit, we potentially can't do a lot of hits on the unit, and it also doesn't do a lot of damage because with the coin flip, even if it lands heads, the potential is so low that most likely you're going to lose your clash. In this instance, we're not going to hold our defense because we're just going to get absolutely annihilated. So let's attack. We'll use the dominating. You are cleansed of sins, and this one should apply a few nails if we don't get staggered. So hopefully we can make some work of it. It's a little bit awkward that if you are slow and you are being attacked, your skill does not proc on the enemy, so you just take a beating first. So as you can see, 10 to 9, very close to losing actually. Even our second skill, even though it's very strong, you can see that we were close to losing that clash. And the person with the nail, wherever he went, is here. So with this red skill, it said it inflicts 3 nails, but this person only has 1 bleed. Interesting. Alright, well, let's try this again. I want to inflict bleed. Okay, no, we want to have you defend. And we want to have you inflict bleed on him. So we should inflict 3 nails, so that way people can see what the heck is happening. And we'll also have you defend. And you defend. This way people can see how the bleed or the nails would work. You're going to be trying to apply 3 stacks of nails. Okay, that's dead unit. Okay, we're going to have him inflict 3 stacks of bleed, staggered, perfect, okay. Okay. So big stagger, we inflicted 3 bleed, but currently 3 nails, but so confusing. Did I use the wrong skill? I don't know. 3 bind. No, if I inflict bind, then it is, yeah, no, interesting. Because this one inflicts 2 nails, the other one inflicts 3 bleed. So because it's at 3 bleed, it inflicts the bleed or the 3 nails next turn, which doesn't make a lot of sense because right now this should be at 3, and then this should go up by 1 and 1. Maybe the UI is a little bit bugged, but basically what I'm trying to say is that with how the bleed works, it should work that, let's do this one, yeah. So this person should inflict or take 2 nail damage, okay? So that unit that's going to be hit with the blue skill, it says inflict 2 nails, if I don't get staggered out. And with 2 nails, what should happen is he should gain 2 nails next turn, as you can see next turn. So then, okay, he got the 2 nails, and because the nail stacks apply right away, the debuff applies right away, it gives him 2 counts of bleed, and then it gives him 1 stack of bleed. So technically, if this guy was staggering and did an attack next turn, or this turn, what would end up happening, and if we didn't attack him this turn either, what would end up happening is this nail will go down to 1 this turn, and then what will happen is next turn he will then get 1 count of bleed and 1 stack of bleed, so he'll be at 3-2. And that's kind of how bleed works, or not bleed, but nails work. It's a little bit convoluted, but as you can see, nails only really work on abnormality. In a human battle right here where you can't really target your bleeds and where you can't target your nails, it's actually kind of bad. But even if you can target your skills on the enemy, his kit is a little bit awkward in the sense that, yeah, he can somewhat heal with his skill 3, and he can do a decent amount of damage, but his kit is a little bit all over the place because there's not a lot of synergies going around with his kit. He's got a strong base kit, but for example, his drive, it lowers the enemy's stagger threshold, which is okay, but it's so low. His drive is, the coin flip is so low that more often than not, that skill is a useless skill. Because as you can see, Clash completely not working. It's a 6-5. So as you can see, that barely won because the enemy low rolled into a 5 and we got the 5 and we were able to flip into the coin for the 6. So high base, low potential, kind of risky. So Meursault is one of those characters where at the moment, even though I'm trying to use him with a bleed sentry build in a human battle, it's not that effective. If anything, the unit that put in a ton of work was Honglu, because Honglu by himself can apply a ton of bleed on the enemy and they can do a ton of damage. Let's just go over and use his big Unga Bunga punch, because I want to do the big Unga punch. Enemy should go down this turn, but we'll take a look at his Screw Loose Wallop. It's a fun skill. It inflicts Paralyze, I believe, 3 stacks of Paralyze, but it's just like a big One Punch Man fist. And yeah, 3 stacks of Paralyze, and that's it. So it's a very strong, damaging move. Inflicts 3 Paralyze. Pretty fun. But as you can see, currently right now, Meursault not very overpowering. His kit kind of a little bit jank. He doesn't fulfill the nail roll effectively, and even with Rodion, their kits kind of synergize, but it takes a lot of work to be able to build up nail. The only time I see you using Rodion and Meursault with the nail comp is if you're fighting an abnormality battle. If you're not fighting an abnormality battle, there isn't really any reason to be using Meursault or Rodion, because their kits just feel very, very weak overall. Because if we take one final look, you can see that the low base stat for Meursault for the drive really hinders him. His 2 other skills are okay, but for what they do, it's actually not that strong. Because if you look at it, his skill here inflicts 3 bind, which is a slow, which is nice, but essentially it's a bleed of 3. You essentially will do 3 ticks of bleed damage on your own, and with this skill you'll inflict basically, with this skill you'll inflict a total of 4 counts of 2 put maximum, or a 3 count of 1 at its lowest. And for this skill you inflict a potential of 2 counts of 1 damage, or 3 counts of 2 damage, so its potential is like 6. But if you take a look at, for example, Jesus Christ, I hate to go back to this character, but 2-star Honglu, his Cloud Cutter is a 5 to 4 plus 4, which can go up to 9. But because he can flip his coin twice if the enemy doesn't have a lot of bleed, he is essentially a 4x4, 16, 21. So he can go up to 21 with his Cloud Cutter, which is insane. Because if we take a look at this guy over here, this can only go up to a measly 12. Not that great, and it's a base of 6. And his Cloud Burst, even more nutty, applies essentially 6 counts of bleed. It applies 6 count of bleed instantly, which eclipses what the nails can do. The nails can either do 3 damage minimum or like maybe at most 8 damage. Best case scenario. Cloud Burst just does 6. Bam. On the dot. And it's a 6+2 with a 3 coin burst. So you can see it's like 12 in total. And even though it's lower base than say his third skill is at 8. His coin flip is lower and he only gets +3. So overall, Meursault is strong. He kind of does like 3 drops kind of bad. He has his first skill, which is a stagger skill, which is okay, but its base coin isn't that high. So it's hard to win. His second skill is kind of outclassed. It only like 2-star Honglu will eclipse this it easily. So why would you use this skill when you can use Honglu 2-star? Obviously Honglu is kind of an anomaly, but as you can see, even with this skill, the damage potential is not that great, so you're really only playing it for the bleed and the bind. But if that's the case, then why play nail, right, if you're not going to be playing bleed? And skill 3, the amount of nails on it, pretty low. You heal for 50% of the damage, but because it inflicts such low level of bleed, the time it takes for you to build up your nails is really slow. And even if I'm using my 2-star Rodion, the amount of nails she can inflict is like 1. So she can inflict 1 nail, and he can potentially inflict 5 nail for a grand total of 6 nail. And that's if all things line up. And with 6 nails, you will get essentially 6 counts of 1 damage into 4-2 into 5-3. So potentially at max potential, that whole scenario is 15 damage maximum. Like those 3 skills use all at once. Meursault, Rodion, using their nail skills all together, will get you a grand total of 15 bleed damage. Best case scenario. And if you just use Honglu, his skill 3, 6 bleed, 6 ticks of damage. This skill, 3 bleed, and a whopping ton of damage. So overall, it's a fun character. Unfortunately, strong, but not top tier. Should you play him? Probably in the abnormality battles, it would make sense, but right now there isn't content that would put him to good use. Even chapter 3 is just not good because he's fatal to it, so you can't really use him, or you wouldn't want to really use him to clear chapter 3 with. So yeah, it is a tough call. Hopefully they release content where, you know, characters like this can shine, but unfortunately right now Meursault is going to be a pass on my part. I'm not going to look to pull him, and if you're wondering, yeah, this is not my character, this is just a support character that someone else pulled. Fun character, not a strong character, kind of jank, but overall it's got good drip. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys leave a comment, like, or hit that subscribe button. I do these videos all the time, try to do my best. If you guys have him on your team, let me know what you think of him. I think he's not that strong, honestly. He's kind of mediocre, does a little bit of everything but not great. But if you like him, let me know. Anyways, John Panio signing out. I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.